Your president is watching. America is watching. But more important, Godfather is watching. Make no mistake, there will be no fuck-ups. Marines around this world would give they left nuts to be where you are. Anybody not want to go? Marines, kill on 3. 1, 2, 3. Kill!
And just a little over 2,000 hours here in studio number 1. Welcome to Cold War Radio, live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., your host tonight, deep down in the broadcast bunker. Please follow me on Spreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. The email, scrtv@live.com. Cold War Radio patron hotline is still 412-206-6208. The voicemail for all of our lovely podcast listeners, 412-562-1460. If you'd like to communicate with the audience but can't do it live, that's the place to go, to the voicemail or the email. The podcast I will talk about in a minute, its availability, but I won't be telling you about the Cold War Radio app, so I'll tell you about that now. And RD Elephant and YouTube. Spreaker is going to stop using YouTube statistics. Got a notice about that. They don't trust them. Imagine that. Please use the hashtag Cold War Radio when you're on Twitter, and go to SteelCityResistance.com, become a Cold War Radio patron. That ensures the longevity and sustainability is the key word everybody likes to use these days, so we'll jump on that bandwagon once and once only. You can also check out the research room, the video page, with the videos of most of the audio clips we play here on the program. If you'd like to write to the show, write to Cold War Radio, P.O. Box 96022, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15226. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, let's go to the Northern Neck and welcome Virginia Jack to the show. Hello, Jack. Sign in, please.
Hello, Hutch, and all the people in the chat room. It's a lively bunch in there on this Friday as Dorian is finally making its way out into the Atlantic.
Did it touch Alabama? Did Alabama get one raindrop out of it? I hope so.
Is that an amazing, little trigger point the president has done with the media on Alabama?
And we've got some coverage of it, man. It's pretty good. I didn't run the availability of the podcast because every now and then I like to do this, and I just want you to keep in mind this is 1 week, folks. The website, the top 3 platforms are the Spreaker website, iHeartRadio, and surprisingly, Spotify. The show is also available on Spreaker iPhone, Apple Core Media iPhone, Spreaker customized mobile app for Android, Spreaker Android, Spreaker customized mobile app for iOS, Apple Core Media, Apple Watch, CastBox, generic Android app, Podbean, Overcast, G-Podder, Apple Core Media iPad, RSS Radio, Pocket Cast, iTunes, Podcast Addict, Twitter.com, Clementine, Apple Core Media iPod, SteelCityResistance.com, Google Podcast, Podkicker, Mobile Safari, Dogcatcher, Podcruncher, Beyond Pod, gstatic.com, Player FM, Chrome, Microsoft Edge, listennotes.com, the405media.com, podcast.app, mixcloud.com, Chrome Mobile, and others. And those are just platforms that played the show this week. So I wanted to bring that out there every now and then because I can't do that every show. But we have a phenomenon going on. This happened with iTunes a while ago, and then it faded out. But on Wednesday night, we had 2 people downloading the show from Spotify. On Thursday, 63 people. And today, Jack, we are up to 816 downloads from Spotify.
Nice.
Or plays, however they do it over there. I don't know. I just I saw that and I felt like, yeah, you guys need to know that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's how that it starts off small, and next thing you know, they like what they hear, and it gets spread around, and the next thing you know, boom.
You never know, man. You're right. That's the way this thing works. Some of these people, they get discovered, and all of a sudden they're everywhere. Maybe we'll do that one day. We'll see. I kind of like being in this niche. But anyway, American Airlines surprised me, Jack. I'm looking at this article, and I'm thinking, is everybody just in the dark here? I mean, American Airlines hires a mechanic named Abdul Majid Maruf Ahmad Alani and he is charged with sabotaging the plane. The guy went in there, and I saw two competing stories. One said that he was mad about the union negotiations that were going on, and the second revised story said that he wanted the overtime. I don't believe either one of those.
That's the one I saw.
I don't believe either one of them. I'm sorry. I mean, you hire somebody named Abdul Majid Maruf Ahmad Alani, and you get what you pay for, man, basically. I mean, you call me what you want, but I mean, it's
I know that's the same thing I thought. I was like, wait a minute. My eyebrow raised when I saw the name, and I'm like, I don't think I could work in the human resources department of American Airlines.
It's unbelievable, man. It really is. But I thought I'd bring that out, and everybody was safe. They caught it on the startup of the plane, so the guy must not have been that good. I imagine the training and
sabotaging. So he can get some overtime.
Man, he tried to get some street cred there, I think. But anyway, we saw a country lose a leader this week. Ex-Zimbabwe dictator Robert Mugabe, dead at 95. A man at first lauded as a genuine liberator of Africa, eventually became a blood-soaked tyrant who took his country from the breadbasket of Africa to basket case in just one generation. His 40-year leadership of the former British colony was marked with bloodshed, persecution of political opponents, and vote rigging on an industrial scale. So clearly a hero of the Democrat Party, Jack. Good riddance, rather.
Yeah, it's amazing to see that you first lauded as a mover and shaker, somebody, and I think Zimbabwe, and it was named a different country prior to that. I just can't.
It was, and I can't remember where.
I can't remember what it was. Somebody in the chat room will know what the name of the country was.
I think it was. Was it Angola?
Angola. But there's so many other. We've seen what's happening in South Africa. What they're trying to do there.
The same exact thing. Same exact thing. I mean, these people, they go from prosperous, and you can you can say what you want, but at least in Africa, the track record is clear. You kick the white people out and you starve. I mean, that's what's happening. That's what happened to Zimbabwe. They confiscated all the farms from white farm owners. They did the same thing in South Africa, and now they're both basket cases. And the United States government treated Nelson Mandela like a hero. And he was a communist tyrant that wrecked the country with him and his wife, and the African National Congress, which was a communist organization. I'll never forget Mandela's funeral. That was the biggest farce, to see all those United States and world leaders at that communist funeral just because he was a black man in jail. He was a terrorist.
The thing I remember most about that funeral was the sign language guy. Yeah. President Obama.
That was hilarious, man. That was, and I don't understand that. Sometimes it takes us a long time to get out of the ruts that we've been in for years. Is there a television left in the United States of America that doesn't have captions on it? Why do we need that idiot up there doing that? There's captions on every television.
Somewhere there's people like, this guy, he's a fraud. He's not saying anything up there. He
was making some cheerleader moves and everything. Yes. That was hilarious.
Where was the Secret Service on that one? Uh-huh.
Yeah. Come on, cursor work. There you go. All right, so Mugabe's done. Hopefully they can get back. The shame of it is the natural resources are there for the place to be fertile. I mean, and they're just not doing it, man. It's
well, China's doing a big deal, but China's following the lead. The Western countries have long exploited the mineral riches of nations in Africa, and basically haven't brought that continent up at the same speed, to help them out. I don't know. I have hems and haws on how we dealt and how we helped put that continent in the condition it is now. But tomorrow's another day, and hopefully with new leadership like we have with President Trump, that all changes. We can start.
We'll see. He's still pretty shackled. You can see that.
Oh yes.
There's still a lot of things going on. There's people at the Federal Election Commission that are against him. There's people at the State Department everywhere.
And all those people that love that money that they're making off of the backs of those folks.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see what happens there. Donald Trump stated the other day that United States farmers are warriors in the trade war with China, and that is oh so true. And God bless you, because I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for United States farmers and the president's negotiation team and the United States Trade Representative Lighthizer and the rest of these guys, those people in Hong Kong would be dead for over a week. They'd already be dead if it wasn't for that trade deal going on. I guarantee it. So keep in mind, if you're a farmer and you're being stung by the short-term ramifications of the reordering of the supply chain of the world to benefit us, keep in mind that your actions and your sacrifice right now are saving lives in Hong Kong. Believe me, and I believe that with every fiber of my being, Jack. They would have been crushed if there was no leverage coming from the free world.
Yeah, and I agree with you. When you, from the get-go, you had said that President Trump has made these trade negotiators basically part of the national defense team. And what he's been doing, he's been saying, these tariffs that China's paying, he's rerouting that to subsidize or basically help, keep the farmers afloat. And at the same time, at that G7 meeting in Paris, he struck a deal with Japan to buy a lot of this produce that the farmers have got that China has basically reneged on, and he's selling some. So he's doing his best to keep these farmers afloat while he is winning this trade war with China.
That's right. And you have to keep in mind, a lot of people, especially Americans, and I think a lot of Republicans too, they don't really look at the history of things and why some things happen. I mean, if you look at the history of World War II, I mean, that was economics, at least with Japan. That was oil embargoes and things, and coal. These are the things that your only weapons are not weapons of war. The economic weapons are sometimes the most powerful. And I think that the president understands that. And I think that the Republicans just were, I don't know, I mean, complacent. That they just didn't seem like they paid attention, because he's really right. And normal people like us, just trying to go through our lives, notice it all the time. We notice that everything that you buy at Walmart breaks. We know that. They don't even have television repair stores anymore. You just throw it out and get a new one.
Right. You see the manufacturing jobs leave, never to return. You had the former president basically said those jobs that are never coming back, basically talking to Americans. In the meantime, I mean, and what you're talking about is the Republicans not seeing it. I think the Republicans were just in bed with it as the liberals. They're just basically keeping their group of people, the people that pay to get them elected, and the folks that they legislate to enhance, to keep them going, their gravy train going. We're the ones that are left behind. They said this is the flyover country, the Midwest, all the people that used to be the backbone of this nation, the one that helped produce the greatest generation, to win the World War I, World War II. That was the regular folks. That wasn't these rich people, and now they're basically trying to get it to where there's no one left in that to basically keep America alive as they drain us from all of our resources and eventually say, well, we have to succumb to the new world order.
Oh, yeah. And that's just a backdoor way of putting communism on a country. You can call it what you want, but when you eliminate the middle class, that's what you get. And that's certainly what they're trying to do. And they've got a whole horde of dumb young ones that owe hundreds or at least tens of thousands of dollars to an education that got them nothing except more stupid. You've got them with Sanders signs. I mean, I see them here, and you look at it and you see 2 cars in the garage in a house and you wonder, what is this person thinking? Doesn't this person realize that his future is in a 20-story apartment building with no cars? I mean, for the life of me, I can't see what somebody would see in Bernie Sanders. And we're going to get into that throughout the show tonight. I've got some clips that just, they're maddening. They're absolutely crazy.
Yep. Whole generation of young folks that look to the federal government as their provider. And that is wrong. That's not America, folks.
And it's not just that. It's not just a candidate that they want. It's the shutdown of any opposition speech against that candidate. I mean, these people are lobbying for colleges to stop free speech. It is scary. When you look at this stuff, we're going to have to put them down at some point.
You look at how the Hitler and the Nazis took over Germany. This is exactly what they did.
You're right. I mean,
exactly.
they called out Jews and put Jews on lists, and now the Democrats are calling out conservatives and putting them on lists.
Companies, anybody that differs from their opinion are now on the list. Right? What was the Hollywood thing? Blackballed, blacklist. I'm like, man, what are you doing?
It's absolutely right. And we've got the illegal alien situation is just getting totally out of control, especially in Maryland. I mean, 6 illegal aliens accused of stabbing a 21-year-old man to death in Maryland. I mean, 6 illegal aliens, man.
That's on top of, I think it was the last week and a half, is 7 illegal aliens were arrested in, I think it's Montgomery, Maryland.
Illegal alien sanctuary, Montgomery County, Maryland.
Yep.
Lashes out at President Trump and critics after 7 illegals arrested for rape last month alone. I mean, how long? Maryland's starting to get like England, and so is San Francisco. These people are getting like England. They are hiding the fact that their own women and girls are being raped in order to protect these savages, these third world peasant savages, and that's what they are. They're not just normal great people. They're freaking third world peasants. Look at them. I mean, it's right there. Look. I kind of get a little upset about this.
It's upsetting because it's not like this is something new. This has been going on. It's been obvious. You look. The guest we had, Marian Mendoza, and being the angel mom, and how the immigration thing with sanctuary cities and stuff that started on the West Coast. It's nationwide, and how no matter how much it's highlighted what is going on, there's no effort within our Congress, and I include all of it. You have a few small voices on the Republican side, but as far as the entire group, you had GOP House, GOP Senate, and the presidency for 2 years, and they did nothing about this.
Right. No question. I'm trying to figure this thing out here. All right. Anyway, go to the next topic. Talk about, we got to get into those clips, and I can't do that right now. So let's go
We're getting close. We got Mona's done another good job, huh?
Absolutely, no question about it. I mean, we've got Ryan Lovelace tonight coming on, the author of a book about the Kavanaugh hearing, and then on Monday we have Judge Jeanine Pirro coming from the Fox News channel. That's going to be fun.
That's an amazing get. So Mona's doing an awesome job up there. You go, girl.
Yep, in New York, no question. And the thing about it is, it was right in the middle of the New York Fashion Week. So that's another interesting situation. All right, so we're going to talk about the 7-hour CNN operation on climate change. I mean, you talk about boring. I don't see how somebody could even pay attention to that. I mean, that's just. But we'll talk about that when we come around to it, ladies and gentlemen. If you can become a Cold War Radio patron, it would really. I know we have a lot of people listening to the program, and that's fine. But we only have 28 or 29 people that are financially supporting the show. I mean, we're on 4 nights a week, 3 nights for Cold War Radio, and then 5 hours on Sunday on WHBJ DB. So if there's any way that you could spare $5, $10, $20 a month, you can go to steelcityresistance.com, become a Cold War Radio patron. If it works for you this month and it doesn't work for you next month, you can opt out at any time. People do that all the time. But I want to thank our core group of patrons. Man, you guys really humble me to no end, especially, Jack, when I look at the amount of time and the total amount of financial support that an individual has given, especially the ones that have been around for a long time. And I'm going to call them out here. I don't have it right in front of me, and I want to make sure that I'm totally accurate when I do it. But we've got some people that have been supporting us for years. And my hat off to you guys, and you took us to another level. We've got co-hosts on every show now. On Wednesdays, we have 2 sometimes. And we've got a person out there in the field that is working for us to get us professional interviews. And I mean, that's a professional situation. My co-hosts get the bio sheets on these people. And you got to admit, that's a professional operation.
Yeah, it's amazing that the support, and to me, it's humbling to know that there's so many people out there that aren't falling for this go to sleep mainstream media narrative. They're like, they know that the truth is being withheld from the people, and that's what we try here to bring some of that truth out there, to counter the droning of the mainstream media from every outlet, just trying to hammer home, go to sleep. You guys woke up, and I like that.
I do too. And again, I want to thank you for supporting. And if you can't support the show, please don't upset your apple cart. If you can't do it, you can't do it, and that's fine. I'd rather you listen to the show or share the show or something like that, because that's the most important thing. The patronage is excellent because it allows, for instance, for us to have Uber Conference and some other things that we have, our Cold War Radio app, and equipment in the studio. And I really love it when you step up when we send somebody to an event or something like that. That's always outstanding, and we appreciate that for sure. So anyway, let's see if that works, and we'll find out. I don't know if it's gonna or not, but we're gonna see. By goodness. But anyway, coming up after that is going to be a mad just homily of these Democrats going absolutely out of their minds. I mean, you're not going to believe some of the things that these people are saying. It's just, it's mind-boggling. It really is. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Ryan Lovelace, an award-winning journalist who covers legal news in Washington as the D.C. business and law reporter for the National Law Journal, American lawyer, and ALM Media. He is a former Supreme Court reporter for the Washington Examiner. Ryan Lovelace's brand new book, Search and Destroy, Inside the Campaign Against Brett Kavanaugh, reveals some pretty explosive details regarding the lengths to which the left plotted to destroy Brett Kavanaugh. Mr. Lovelace, welcome to Cold War Radio. I am Hutch Bailey Jr. My co-host is Jack in Virginia. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your book, and then I have some questions. I noticed that we have an attorney that just recently came out since I got you booked on the show, saying that Kavanaugh's accuser was driven by the abortion agenda. Tell us a little bit about your book and how relevant is that?
It's very relevant, and really that's one of the things that was uncovered in this book. And I've actually, I was the one who shared the clip with other folks outside of, around town in Washington and outside in the news media, to kind of get them to pay attention to this. Because one of the things that's so interesting about that clip is it shows Deborah Katz, who is Christine Blasey Ford's attorney, saying that her client was motivated in part by Roe versus Wade, particularly legalized abortion, and then it's all about putting an asterisk next to Justice Kavanaugh's name. And what I sought to do in this book was spell out for people and take them behind the scenes from how the left used organized forces, in the words of Christine Blasey Ford's attorney, to go after Justice Kavanaugh and really whoever President Trump would have picked. And so I go through it step by step and try to show precisely what happened and give people the information they need to make up their own minds. They don't have to rely on stories trying to affirm one point of view or another and get them to buy into a narrative.
Well, this is Jack, and thank you for joining us, Ryan. It's amazing that the clip, I saw that come out. I saw a little bit of articles pushed out about the revelation that the attorney Katz was in Baltimore at a feminazi conference, basically does a 180 because, when the Kavanaugh hearing was going on and she was on NBC and asked if it was politically motivated, Ford's accusations or the timing of the event. She basically said, no, there's no political narrative at all. So during your efforts to bring this book forward, have you seen, or is this like something that you're accustomed to seeing seeing your time in Washington, D.C.? Is this like the norm, just this search and destroy activity, and then as soon as the media boom, the spotlight's on, everybody gets this stuff, and then when the truth comes out, it's basically shoved to the back page, under the rug type activity?
Yeah, I think with presidential politics, it certainly is. Yeah, I covered the 2016 presidential campaign with the Washington Examiner, and really one of the things that I was focusing on most closely was the president's shortlist for the Supreme Court vacancy at that time, which was ultimately filled by Justice Neil Gorsuch. And I think people that have been involved in presidential politics and campaigns get it, but people that are involved in Supreme Court nominations haven't quite gotten the same kinds of attacks that we've seen on a larger scale. This time around, there were things that were different in 2018 for Justice Kavanaugh's nomination that didn't exist even 1 year earlier. There's a group on the left called Demand Justice that set itself up just before Justice Kennedy's retirement. Demand Justice is led by a former Hillary Clinton campaign flack named Brian Fallon. Before Trump had even picked someone, and then eventually Kavanaugh, before he even picked Kavanaugh, Demand Justice came out and said they were going to spend $5 million to oppose whoever was selected. And that wasn't something that we'd seen before. And they also had organized protesters go into the courtroom. People thought it looked genuine on TV when they're watching from afar. But as a reporter, the social justice PR firm working with the, protesters would email me each time someone was hauled out of the room, and they'd say, would you like to talk to so-and-so who's just arrested? This is the town now. And they just kept doing that sort of thing throughout the whole thing, and nobody really ever picked up on it. And that's what, I was trying to show.
And they were paid, too. Some of these folks paid to go in there and act a fool and get on TV and get kicked out of their room. It's amazing. And right now, like you just said, it reminds me of Media Matters, and I forgot that other group that was working during the 2016 campaign. It's all focused on using this thing we call social media, the internet, and the instant grab with all of this way to basically alert, put big headlines in there, and just have that be the narrative that gets sunk into the brains of everyone that's absorbing it, because they don't have the time to, like you do, to go investigate and find out what all the information is, who's behind it, who's doing all this. All they know is the headline is like, oh, this can't be a judge on the Supreme Court because of what he's done,
Exactly. And, one of the things that's really been interesting about all this to me that I think a lot of people missed at the time was, the first group that Christine Blasey Ford turned to was the Washington Post. She tried to repeatedly contact them, and they had ignored her. And after they had ignored her, then at that point, her allegation came out through a blog on the internet called The Intercept. That's a left-leaning blog that is done kind of promotional videos for the squad, particularly AOC, and that sort of a thing, and they're in need of traffic. And so they put out, there's this allegation of an incident. And the same day they did that, Deborah Katz was testifying in the House on a women's caucus, particularly about Me Too issues, and said, if you don't rape 80 people, the Washington Post doesn't care anymore. It's called the Weinstein effect, in her words. Wow. And she was suggesting that the press didn't care. So after that first initial thing came out on the internet, there's something out there, we don't know what it is, then the national press didn't have to bother trying to figure out the truth of the matter. They just said, does this hurt him? Does this help him? And then cable news picks it up, and they bat it around back and forth over and over and over until it spread like wildfire. And that's really one of the things that was different this time, too, was the way the online media affected things.
The shame of it is the amount of Americans that are so gullible. I mean, when they come out with these fake grassroots campaigns, when you look at a real grassroots campaign, you have people with poster boards that have drawn their signs with a marker or something like that. You look at these left-wing organized paid protesters, and they have professional printed signs. It's ridiculous. But I wanted to ask you, because I want to make sure the audience understands that we're on the cutting edge of tribalism here when it comes to these Supreme Court hearings. When was the last contested Supreme Court? Let me rephrase that. Almost all Supreme Court justice nominations have been close to unanimous. Am I correct on that?
In recent times, it's changed a bit. Republican presidents that have appointed Supreme Court justices have had a much harder go than nominees that have been appointed by Democrats. I mean, one of the things, people think back on Justice Gorsuch's nomination the first year of President Trump's administration, and I think that was relatively smooth to what Kavanaugh experienced. But he actually had the first partisan filibuster of a Supreme Court nominee ever. The Democrats uniformly said, we're just not going to do anything President Trump wants to pick, and so they came out against it. Republicans then nuked that, and I think that's really part of why things got personal here, because Republicans said, well, if you're not going to even consider them and not go through the search and advice and consent process, then we're not going to bother with the filibuster anymore, and we're going to get rid of it. And things kind of have devolved from there. But, really that was one of the things that was so interesting to me. So many people trace it back to Judge Bork so many decades ago, or Justice Thomas. But really, I think we're starting to see things change where it's become more political. We've seen a lot of these dark money groups on the left get involved in the 2020 campaign now with ideas about court reform and with the intention of whipping all of these candidates into a single agenda about either expanding the size of the court and affecting who's on it. With Gorsuch, they said he sits in a stolen seat. That seat was supposed to belong to Merrick Garland, that President Obama picked. And now, with Kavanaugh, they're saying there's an asterisk next to his name. There needs to be. They mobilized the Me Too movement, they weaponized the Me Too movement, and they attempted to put an asterisk next to his name by their own admission and in their own words. And that's all about trying to harm the legitimacy and credibility of the court. And I really think that's one of the things where, if the American people lose faith and confidence in the Supreme Court the way they have in other institutions, it's going to be a really big problem for the American justice system that relies so much on public confidence in them.
That's what I'm afraid of. And they're doing it. They did it with the decision allowing corporate. I forget the name of the doggone decision, but it was the one where the unions had already been able to donate, and now corporations are going to donate. And you had Democrats saying that the court was, illegitimate for making decisions like that. And what you said just now about Gorsuch, what I was talking about was way pre-Trump. I was talking about our history, and I mean Justice Ginsburg and Sotomayor. They were all pretty much, I don't want to say unanimous, but overwhelmingly approved by the Senate. Am I right? This is new. This is new. What's going on now?
It is, and one of the interesting things too. If you're looking back at the hearings that were happening at just about this time last year, Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, is on the Judiciary Committee. Now he's the chairman of it. At the time, he wasn't, but he knew he was going to be. And one of the things he did before casting a vote in support of Kavanaugh was look down over at the Democrats from the right side of the panel and say, tell Elena and Sonia I say hello because I never did this to them. I voted for them. He was referring to Justice Sotomayor and Kagan, who were picked by Obama. He voted for them. The other folks have voted for them that were Republican senators because for the longest time, the way it worked in the Senate was the president got his nominee, his or her nominee, and the Senate didn't object to it. There were days long ago when Supreme Court justices were confirmed by voice vote, where there wasn't even a tally. And so now we've gotten to the point where this is among the more high-stakes political issues that get done. And part of that is because of the gridlock, I think, in Washington, where now we're just at the point where just about all a divided Congress can accomplish are nominations and things like that. But the politicization of how, the Supreme Court gets staffed, so to speak, is something that, is completely new. And I think you hit on that well.
Yeah, I think, and Ryan, I think what troubles me is you've been covering the Supreme Court as a reporter before. So I mean, like you said, this is unprecedented attacks on a nominee. What has happened here? The attempt to label, the attempt from the left to try and basically say that they want to add more seats to the Supreme Court to take over what is basically, you've got a 5-4 balanced court right now, but they want it to be leaning extremely to the left. You see the left presidential candidates now actually attacking the Constitution with the Electoral College, trying to tell the people that basically this is like an outdated deal. The Electoral College, to me, is one of the foundations that makes this country the greatest on earth. Was the Electoral College, which basically made all the states equal, despite the populations in each state. It was a genius thing, and now that's under attack. In the future, do you see any other ramping up of this kind of scrutiny of a Supreme Court nominee? Should the president have another one in his pocket going into the 2020 election?
Absolutely. I think it's only going to get worse, and especially if another vacancy did materialize before the 2020 election. And I think one of the really interesting parts of this, too, is in this situation with Justice Kavanaugh, the allegations that were made against him never ended up in a court of law, and that was by design. Christine Blasey Ford's lawyer, Deborah Katz, was saying in that same talk where she was talking about how this was in part motivated by Roe versus Wade and desire to protect abortion, the right to have an abortion. She also goes on to say, when I have clients that are of this ilk, I don't look to the law, and you shouldn't look to the law. She was trying to instruct people to follow her lead and said, you have to have a press strategy, you have to have a legislative strategy, and you have to work with organized forces, outside groups, nonprofits to accomplish your agenda, your political agenda. It's not about getting to what's right or what's fair or what's ethical or anything else. If you've got an agenda and you want to litigate specific cases, the way to do it is to approach it that way. And I think what we're going to continue to see is a lot of cases, so to speak, tried in the court of public opinion instead of a court of law. And in the kind of age of new media and social media where anything goes and anyone can say anything they want at any time, I think it's only going to continue to damage and probably dissuade people. I've heard from a lot of folks that are concerned that the younger generation of lawyers coming up aren't even going to want to be a Supreme Court justice because they don't want to have to go through something like this, regardless of whatever their political beliefs might be.
And a lot of them are being trained not on the Constitution, but on precedent, and so it just keeps getting worse and worse if you keep going by precedent, and we're having bad precedent like Roe versus Wade, which drove a lot of this, from what I understand with your book. It's not going to get better. It's going to continue to get worse. But talk about a little bit more about your book and about the armada of activist groups that are fueled by dark money. Get a little bit more into that so the audience can know where to look. I mean, this is something that if we can identify it a little bit, at least we can try to counter the narrative. This is very organized and very well funded.
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier when I was mentioning about those protesters that were, organizing at the hearings, they were led by a group called Megaphone Strategies, and they fancy themselves a social justice PR firm. Demand Justice is another group that I mentioned earlier, that has ties to the Clinton campaign and the rest of it from 2016 and really even dating back farther than that. And then, kind of looking at the team that was around Christine Blasey Ford over the summer when Justice Kavanaugh was nominated, and she initially hooked up with Deborah Katz, the team grew larger ever from there. There were folks who had been working in the Clinton administration, like Michael Bromwich. There were outside PR firms with strong Democratic connections brought in, like SKD Knickerbocker. They're a big firm here in Washington. And then, going forward, one of the things that I tried to do was spell out for folks precisely how all this happened. But I didn't want them to have to take my word for it, because I know so much of this gets politicized. So every time that I, in the book, quote from a private email of Deborah Katz's to a Senate Democrat or to a Senate Republican, I didn't want folks to just have to rely on my word for it. So I published the full thing in the back of the book. I published the full encrypted messages that Christine Blasey Ford sent to the Post, to the Washington Post tip line that we're all talked about, so that everyone can look at all of those things for themselves and do the homework themselves and not actually have to rely on all of these different groups in Washington that are trying to spin you. You can go look at it yourself and see, who's telling me the truth and who's lying to me. And I think, that's the best way to give, the American people that actually care about this thing still, the chance to have a shot at learning the truth.
I'm sure our folks in the chat room have documented all of those organizations. Do me a favor, Ryan, and just run through the names of the organizations one more time, sir.
Sure. A few of the ones that I was mentioning were Megaphone Strategies. They've got ties to and affiliations with Van Jones, Demand Justice, and they've got connections to Brian Fallon and the Clintons. SKD Knickerbocker was one of the PR firms that I'd mentioned that was in Washington. And then, of course, Deborah Katz and Michael Bromwich were the two lawyers that were seated on opposite sides of Christine Blasey Ford during the hearing. And they both have ties to the Clinton administration, with Michael Bromwich having worked in it and Deborah Katz being a big Hillary Clinton donor.
So I think what I'm getting at is I've seen a group of new media journalists, link on to the idea of, it's time that maybe we play the same game they're doing. And that's why I asked you for the organization's names again. It's time for us to start calling these people out. I mean, we have as much social media exposure as they do, if not more. And they might have a little more because they own it. But still, you don't shadow ban and block people if you don't think that they're doing a good job. So we're over the target, that's for sure. One final question before I let you let everybody know how they can get the book and get in touch with you and everything. That Washington, D.C., where I was born, I didn't spend much time there other than lately when I go to different events, but they went over 90% for Hillary Clinton. Is this affecting you at all in your personal life, if you don't mind me asking?
I think at this point I'm kind of used to it, frankly.
Man.
I think you kind of show up and you're in Washington and you're kind of expecting that. I'm grown up in the suburbs of Chicago, so I'm kind of used to kind of that sort of environment and that media environment. And Chicago politics, when just a few years ago, the governors go to prison, and there's basically only been one governor out of the last three that hasn't gone to prison. So to me, it's kind of par for the course. So.
This show's out of Pittsburgh, and the Chicago mob has been screwing Pittsburgh for 100 years. So I know all about that. How can people get your book, Ryan?
Well, they can go to Amazon. They can go to Barnes & Noble. They can go to bookstores. Wherever books are sold, you can find it. I'm promoting it online on my Twitter feed at Lovelace Ryan D, and you can see it there too. But I'd love for people to just take a look and think for themselves, and not have to rely on so much of the other noise that's out there.
Well, we've got a lot of readers in the audience, so I'm sure we'll move a couple books for you because people are interested in the knowledge. They really are. And you obviously did yeoman's work when it comes to attention to detail and and footnotes and things like that. So good for you. How can people reach you on social media? You said your Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Anywhere else or anything else you'd like to say to the audience, sir?
That's the best way to do it. And really just, I appreciate folks tuning in to shows like yours because I think it is really important that people do take the time to think independently and think for themselves.
Well, we thank you very much. We feel the same way, and it's trending that people are not just going to the big three networks and starting to branch out and realizing what time it is, that at some point in time, a lot of people are going to realize that the fake news isn't even worth paying attention to, and then we'll be here. Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan Lovelace, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
All right, good stuff.
Amazing.
Outstanding, to say the least.
I mean, despite like that question you asked them about being in D.C.
Well, it's true. I mean,
but hey, here we have a cold warrior right there in D.C. Boom, putting the truth out.
Absolutely, that's what we need. We need to do that, and we need to out these people. I mean, how long are we going to get beat, man? How long are we going to get our lunch money taken? We're going to just keep on doing it? I don't think so. For
them to be on with the media and sit there and say, "Oh, there's no political agenda here," and then 5 months later at a feminazi conference in Baltimore, the 11th annual "We Hate Man" deal, she's going to say, "Oh, well, he got confirmed, but it was a conservatives that got him in there, but we put an asterisk by his name." And
they said they were going to. They said they were going to go after him even after he was confirmed. It's unbelievable, man. These Democrats in Congress. All right, let's get into this. Let's get into the hardcore, ridiculous. Let me say that this climate change.
Let me get my boot. I'm putting my boots on right now.
Put them on, man. Put them on. Get the helmet on too, because stuff's coming from the air. Now, this is nothing about climate change. I have never heard a group of American politicians that want to ban so much stuff. When did you ever equate banning things with the American government? I mean, this is Nazi-esque. It's unbelievable. Let's start with the arrogance of Bernie Sanders. I couldn't believe he said this, man. I mean, just imagine if China came into the United States and wanted to save the climate by killing our babies. All right, let's turn the button on first. That usually works.
Here we go.
Human population growth has more than doubled in the past 50 years. The planet cannot...
Hold on. I got to describe this woman for you. This is probably a 55, 60-year-old white woman that never had a boyfriend in her life. You can look at her and tell she has no worries about getting pregnant.
Human population growth has more than doubled in the past 50 years. The planet cannot sustain this growth. I realize this is a poisonous topic for politicians, but it's crucial to face. Empowering women and educating everyone on the need to curb population growth seems a reasonable campaign to enact. Would you be courageous enough to discuss this issue and make it a key feature of a plan to address climate catastrophe?
Well, Martha, the answer is yes. And the answer has everything to do with the fact that women in the United States of America, by the way, have a right to control their own bodies and make reproductive decisions.
Yay!
Let me throw that in there for you all.
And the Mexico City Agreement, which denies American aid to those organizations around the world that allow women to have abortions or even get involved in birth control, to me is totally absurd. So I think, especially in poor countries around the world, where women do not necessarily want to have large numbers of babies, and where they can have the opportunity through birth control to control the number of kids they have, something I very, very strongly support.
So Bernie wants to kill babies to save the climate, and she says, and I wonder where she gets her information that God created this earth, but that there's not enough room for us on it. I mean, apparently she's never flown in a plane and looked down.
too much soy milk.
It's
and Bernie,
almond milk now. It's almond milk.
Almond.
From Jordan. Almonds are from Jordan.
You know that Bernie has a problem with babies because there was a clip.
Yeah.
It didn't make it into the clip thing, but
it was too short, man. It was like 17 seconds.
Oh, it was just like he's at an appearance and he's answering a question, and in the background you hear this baby, and he stops and he points at the lady, I guess, who's responsible for the child. And could we stop this? Could we stop? It's like, what happened to kissing babies?
It's crazy.
Punching them. He doesn't even want them to be born. If you go by what he just said, right?
Now, I want to play a montage, and this pretty much speaks for itself. I want you to think if these fools, and you know, the best part about this is that if any one of these candidates becomes a nominee, they're not going to be able to walk this stuff back, man. They're hung with it. They're so stupid right now. I read an article that said that they thought that the president put a spy inside CNN just so they would do this. Listen to this.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid. What people
yes.
To reduce red meat specifically.
Yes, I would.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should. Yes.
So would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
Just today, the Trump administration announced plans to overturn requirements on energy-saving light bulbs. Would you reinstate those requirements as president?
If you can get electricity from a light bulb that utilizes 1/10 of the power that an old incandescent.
Bernie, you don't get electricity from a light bulb.
Light bulb used. Of course you're going to do that.
We have to take combustion engine vehicles off the road as rapidly as we can.
Get rid of them. Just get rid of cars, trucks, automobiles, planes. Oh, God.
Educating everyone on the need to curb population growth seems a reasonable campaign to enact. Would you be courageous enough to discuss this issue and make it a key feature of a plan to address climate catastrophe?
God.
Well, Martha, the answer is yes. I think especially in poor countries around the world where women do not necessarily want to have large numbers of babies and where they can have the opportunity through birth control to control the number of kids they have, something I very, very strongly support.
Let's talk about offshore drilling for oil. Would you ban it?
Yes.
Would you ban offshore drilling? Absolutely yes. We will transition off of fossil fuels, natural gas, coal, oil. What about the export of fossil fuels from the United States? Would you ban that? Absolutely, we must get to that point.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
I'm in favor of a carbon-free America.
In my administration, we're not going to build any new nuclear power plants.
We should set out the rules for what kind of plant, coal-burning plants. No one's going to build another coal burning. We've got to shut the ones down we have.
Oh. We're going to end factory farming.
Oh, no more
because that is not only that is a danger to the environment and to climate change. There will be a transition. There will be a transition, and there will be some pain there.
And there will be pain. These people are nuts, Jack. They are off their rockers.
Didn't Biden, bust a vessel in his eyeball?
His eye filled up with blood, man. It was sickening. That guy there should get out. He should get out.
It was green blood. It was green.
Oh,
he was going green.
That was nasty. Ken from King George. Hello, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Hudson Jack?
Hey, Ken.
Happy Friday to everybody. Hey, you notice how they continue to use the word, we want to ban.
Yeah, that was my point.
Guns. They want to ban this, but whatever they don't want to ban, they want to make mandatory.
It's unreal. It's unreal. They banned smoking outside at PNC Park where the Pirates play. I've been to one game since that. I used to be a partial season ticket holder. I've been to one game in like 7 years because I'm not putting up with that. You know what I mean? Whatever. Ban whatever you want.
If they ban this, then, if you vote for me, I can give that back to you. Because now all of a sudden smoking's right, but if you vote me in and I'm on the right ticket, Hutch, you vote for me, I'll let you smoke outside the stadium.
It's a done deal, man. I'm not going. If I do go, I am going to smoke.
What was it, 8 years ago? Vaping Boom.
Yeah.
The amazing alternative to smoking tobacco. They were all in on that, right? Oh, it's harmless. Boom. We're going to get the kids in it. Oh, everything. Now, what do you see?
Well, you see the VA has banned it.
You see Michigan, the state, has banned it. You know?
No, but you're absolutely right, Ken. That was my point. That was my point about the whole thing. You've got this ban fest that's going on, that these people think that they're royal. They think that, I mean, this ruling class, and don't think that there aren't Republicans on board with half this stuff, because there are.
They're making money off of it.
Doggone right.
Oh, I'm sure. I was just over to the neighbor's house picking up my pot that we cooked some shrimp in over the weekend.
What, you mean the day you missed the show, or what? No, just kidding. Just kidding. Go ahead, man.
I missed
Go ahead.
Hey, we were saving the planet. We were eating lots of, bacon and, getting farting pigs and stuff, out of the way. But climate change, baby, we're helping the problem, to eliminate it. One cow at a time.
That's it, man. Gotta get them farting cows out of there.
Yeah.
But I'm over there watching it, and, it's got the news on, and I'm like, all right. And this commercial comes on, and I'm sure Jack's probably seen this commercial, too, because it's for Senator Warner, and he's up for election in 424 days, right? Just keep that in mind. We're 424 days from the 2020 election, right?
Oh, it's going to be a long year.
They show this, girl gets picked up by an ambulance, and, they're rushing through traffic, and, oh my gosh, her condition just got worse. And all of a sudden, they pull up into the ER, and there's nobody there.
Right.
Must be a Democrat-run hospital.
And it's an ad for Senator Warner that just think about, if you need health care and there's nobody there to provide it. I'm like, these doctors all take an oath that if you walk in, it doesn't matter where you come from, if you walk in the ER, they're going to treat your ass no matter what.
That's true, but no, you're right. But the is Warner a Republican or a Democrat?
Democrat.
He's a Democrat.
All right. Well, really, what he's saying, really, though, if you think about it, if we would have went down the Obamacare road, and we would have eliminated all private insurance, and we would have had the government deciding how much a doctor gets paid for a procedure, how long, and at the same time that's going on, our corrupt communist colleges are raising the tuition rates out of control. Can you imagine how much it costs to go to medical school and then to go on to become something specialized like a brain surgeon? How many people do you think are going to do that for $50,000 a year? Zero.
Well, you're not going to wind up with another Dr. Ben Carson ever.
Right,
again.
Exactly. That's my point. So really what he's saying is against his own ideology. He wants the government to take over everything. You know what? You're going to get
exactly right.
SEIU surgeons, man. Imagine
you are honed in on the topic. You are not the target of this ad. The target of this ad are the people that think a text headline is the story, right? They say that, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. What they're doing with that story is basically saying that if you don't get Medicare for all, this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to go to the hospital, and nobody's going to be there to take care of you. We are the government. We are trying to help you, but these evil folks don't want you to have health care.
So basically, once again,
evil capitalist system.
And once again, the Democrats are counting on their voters to be stupid, and unfortunately, the voters are going to make them very happy because that's just the way it is right now. Thanks for calling, Ken. I appreciate it, brother. Have a great weekend, my man.
All right, you too, brother.
Stay safe, Ken.
Let's go to Sean in California. Hello, Duke of California. Come in.
Hey, what's up, Hutch? Man, I have a story for all of you to take a gander to. Holy crap, is it really messed up. Okay, so we all know that Gavin Newsom passed a little law that says now you don't have to help police officers when they're in distress, right?
Yeah, I saw that, man. That was ridiculous. Good.
Well, a couple days later, or a few days later, this police officer in San Bernardino County rolls up on a suspect, right? She's trying to get him to calm down. I think, Deputy Megan I don't know how to pronounce her name. Anyways, so the son of this lady who called on her son to basically be arrested, assaults the officer, grabs her gun, disarms her. She runs for cover, and he starts shooting at her. Other police units roll in and shoot the guy. I'm like, okay, that's no coincidence right there. God, this irritates me.
And it's going to continue. It's going to continue. And the thing about it is that it doesn't get reported. I mean, we had here in Pittsburgh, we had a white guy from outside the city come into the city and shoot up the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill. And the mayor and the media was all over it. But then we had a Syrian immigrant who graduated from a Pittsburgh public school high school and was implicated in a plot to blow up a church, a very small church, but a church.
Right.
And two things. It died in the media. You didn't see anything about it. And number two, he needed a translator in court. So he is a graduate of the Pittsburgh public school system and can't speak English. Imagine that. And this is what we have from coast to coast, man. We have the media and the judiciary and the government in a lot of cases protecting these people that are in our midst. And I mean illegal aliens, fake refugees, the whole 9 yards. We better wake up, especially you guys in California. But it's not just you. It's not just you. Believe me. On the East Coast, it's horrible. And even in the Midwest, in Michigan, I mean, you've got Dearbornistan, you've got Hamtramck, you've got Murfreesboro in Tennessee, you've got Patterson, New Jersey. You've got places that are infiltrated. Minnesota 5, Little Mogadishu.
It's bad.
It is. And we better wake up. We better wake up, and we better wake up with prejudice. And I don't mean racial prejudice.
Amen to that,
Add on to
one
that.
thing I want to leave on the lighter note. Sorry. We have 75,000 signatures to recall Gavin Newsom, according to change.org.
Really? Is that California?
I just got the email just now.
Good. I mean, good luck on that, but...
good luck on Gavin Newsom. On top of all of that you were discussing, you add on to the health risks going on in the major cities, San Francisco and Los Angeles.
Especially the warm ones. Right, especially the warm ones.
Medieval diseases, right? That are being brought back or being harbored via the rats, the typhus, some cases
the fecal
plague.
Fecal matter everywhere. And you look at. Let me see. Do I have a story on this? Because I know I'm not going to have time to run it. But let me just see if I do, because I may. No, that's a good one. Liberal libido. Let me just read a paragraph or two of this. It's by Jeffrey Folks, and I got it from the American Thinker, a very good blog that I enjoy. One major difference between liberals and conservatives is that conservatives are generally more restrained, and don't get nasty here, but generally more restrained in their sexual behavior. Liberals are not. Much of the high-minded talk of liberals about tolerance and open-mindedness really comes down to an attempt to defend their presumed right to what in the 60s was called free love and what is now called hooking up. Liberals are intent on hiding the consequences of their behavior by characterizing their detractors as small-minded hypocrites. But the fact is that promiscuity has consequences, some of them lethal. Liberals ignore these consequences, and this recklessness is a fundamental part of the liberal thinking. Promiscuity has many consequences. For one, there is the damage done to the family. Parents who are devoted to one another make for the ideal family life. Loving parents convey the values of optimism, safety, and steadfastness to their offspring. Those who lack these values find it hard to maintain confidence and purpose in their lives. They will be haunted by the weaknesses they observed in their parents. And I'll go on to that, go on with that a little more if we have time. But I have some other things I really want to get to. So, Sean, thanks for calling. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Stay safe in Cali, Sean.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's go to Marlene. I think it's Marlene. Hello, Marlene.
Yes, me. Hi, yeah.
Hey, Marlene.
I got a doozy for you. I put it in the link in the chat earlier, but basically what's going on is the good old city of San Fran. I'll read just part of the whole thing, but it's basically saying that they want to consider the NRA a domestic terror organization. I mean, some of this stuff is a joke. Says the NRA musters its considerable wealth and organizational strength to promote gun ownership and incite gun owners to acts of violence. Bullshit. And whereas the NRA through its bull snort.
Do you know that the NRA is a civil rights organization? One of the first.
Yes.
One of the first to protect black Americans' right to bear arms.
That's cool. Then they go on through its advocacy has armed these individuals who would have committed acts of terrorism. What? Not. And then they resolve the city of San Fran is intending to declare the NRA as a domestic terrorist organization, and that the city of San Fran should take reasonable steps to assess the financial and contractual relationships our vendors and contractors have with this domestic terrorist organization.
Sickening. They should sue them. They should sue San Francisco government. It's San Francisco is one of the richest cities in America, and I think they should tap into that, and the NRA should sue them for libel. I mean, that's a hell of an accusation to a business, man.
It is, and I would love to see the city of San Fran sue the NRA sue their asses off. That'd be great.
I would too, man. I really would.
It'd be awesome.
I'll tell you what. While you're on the line, I'm not gonna cut you off yet, but I want to get to some of these things. I'm going to play a clip that it's a painful compilation from Stuart Varney. They put together this compilation video from the CNN marathon. This is our last CNN marathon installation. But incidentally, what they did is after the wild night of Democrats promising to take away hamburgers, straws, fracking, and modern comforts, CNN immediately announced another night of pandering to the gay, lesbian, and trans community. So have we ever seen a network that did this? This network is so in the tank. When's the last time they did a 7-hour anything on our side? They never did.
What's that going to be, a whole weekend marathon on that?
I don't know, man. Let's listen to the preaching montage.
Held a climate town hall with the Democrat candidates. It was 7 hours long. Okay, we boiled it down to a minute. Roll tape.
God is watching as poison is being belched into the air of creation, and people are being harmed by it. Countries are at risk of vanishing in low-lying areas. What do you suppose God thinks of that? I bet he thinks it's messed up. This is winning World War II, perhaps even more challenging than that.
One of the reasons I love the framing of the Green New Deal is it uses some of the language that we might associate with the way that we met the response of Nazi Germany in World War II.
We should be leading the world to a global energy transition, and you have a president who thinks it's not real. That is idiotic.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should. Yes. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. It's really difficult to drink out of a paper straw when if you don't gulp it down immediately, it starts to bend.
Yes.
And then, the little thing catches it and then,
I know, and it's especially tough when you're with some other lady's wife.
Oh, but
I mean husband.
So we got to kind of perfect that one a little bit more.
Okay.
All right.
Daniel Turner with Power the Future is with us. Now, hold on a second, Daniel. The United States is the king of emissions reduction. That is a fact. So why are all these candidates being so negative?
Yeah, they have yet to explain how two things happen simultaneously, how we are lowering our emissions and at the same time increasing the amount of fossil fuels that we are producing and building our economy. They haven't been able to square that circle. This was really just 7 hours. Stuart, I watched the entire thing. I felt like I was on the Ludovico technique in Clockwork Orange, where I'm strapped to the chair watching hours of nauseating film. It was void of science, physics, math, economics. It was 7 hours of just socialist talking points. It was torture, honestly. It was torture.
It was self-torture, Daniel. You didn't have to do that,
I have to.
Maybe you should. Yeah, you do. That's right. Look, I just want you to look at what Bernie Sanders said about fracking. Here's the quote. Any proposal to avert the climate crisis must include a full fracking ban on public and private lands. Daniel, it is fracking which produces our natural gas, and it is natural gas which has allowed us to cut our emissions where everybody else is still rising, or certainly China and India. What's he talking about?
Exactly. They get away with these ethereal comments, and you just heard one of them in that earlier clip, where put poison into the air, things like that. I heard one of the candidates say that there are millions of people in America who don't have access to clean water because of fracking. We're close to 2 million fracked wells in America. We have fracking in many parts of this country, and look at what it's done to oil and gas prices, and look at what that's done to food prices and to transportation prices. This is just the economic inconsistency that none of them want to deal with. Instead, Bernie Sanders has a proposal to fight climate. It said more taxpayer funded for abortions in third world countries to reduce the population. How are we having this conversation? These people are serious candidates for the president, and these are their solutions. It was shocking, the stupidity I dealt with.
Well, you had to sit there for 7 hours. Good luck to you, Daniel. I mean, you survived it. You're on our air at 9 o'clock in the morning. You're doing all right. Daniel Turner, thanks for suffering through that, and thanks for reporting to us this morning. We appreciate it, Daniel.
So what do you think, Marlene? I mean, these people, do any of them have a chance at being elected? I don't see how.
I don't either. I think they're basically full of garbage. And, I mean, it gets funnier and funnier and funnier. Listen to some of these clips, and I'm sitting here going, oh, this is just nuts.
You know, the best part about it is that they felt this way all along. Most of them have.
Oh, yeah.
There were some people that were a little smarter, and Joe Biden was one of them. And Joe Lieberman was
a little
one.
smarter, but now he's losing it.
There was a lot of them that were, but now he's being forced into it. I mean, if you remember Barack Obama, everybody okay? Everybody all right?
Yeah, I'm just hiding my plastic straws.
Okay, just checking. But Obama was hiding the fact that he was for homosexual marriage until Biden bleated it out. If you recall, that was all him. But I have one more thing. I'm going to let you go, but I want you to answer this or, talk about this. It looks like a liberal Portland grand jury has cleared a pair of thugs that pummeled a man in a MAGA hat in a Portland bar. They are not being charged. It was a felony, a third-degree assault felony. And they're not even being charged. I mean, this is unbelievable to me.
It is unfreaking believable. I don't know where in the hell the cops in Portland, where their brains are. I don't know where the judges are.
Here's the thing.
Must be out to lunch.
Here's the thing. Think if it was
the mob in on this.
Think if a guy was out there. Think if a guy was out there with the "I am gay" hat on. And that happened to him.
Oh, they would love it.
The dude he'd be up for capital punishment, man. I mean,
oh, no kidding.
This is sick. This is sick, and it has to be fixed.
It's way sick.
Hey, Marlene, you have a great weekend. I got some stuff to move on to.
You too.
Thanks for calling.
I know you do. Okay, boy.
All right. Now, we are going to, let me just get rid of a couple more of these things here. The founder of Snopes, far left moral purveyor of truth in the media, Divide Michelson is his name, allegedly embezzled $98,000 for prostitutes during his divorce. That's always good to hear. You know, you have all these people that are telling us how bad we are. And I told you before that we have Judge Jeanine Pirro coming on the program on Monday, and her book, Radicals, Resistance, and Revenge, tops U.S. book sales. And we're going to talk about that. But the New York Times lists her third behind Michelle Obama's new book, even though she sold many more. So this is what we have to look forward to.
Big Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable, man. It's something. I already told you, following a wild night of Democrat candidates promising to take away hamburgers, straws, fracking, and modern comfort, CNN immediately announced another night of pandering to the LBGTEIEIO crew from McDonald's Farm. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about Shepard Smith. And I'm not talking about the entirety of the Fox News channel, because that was my immediate gut reaction to this. But then I remembered Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Martha McCallum a little bit. She's about halfway there. And what's the one at 10 o'clock? Laura Ingraham.
Shep's, the alter ego of Don Lemon on CNN. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's listen to Shepard Smith. I've got two clips. The first one is Shep and Chris Wallace, another oxygen thief at Fox News.
From those emails, well, in fact, this was supposed to be, and what the Trump folks took the meeting to accomplish was the Russian government trying to give information about Hillary Clinton as part of an effort to swing the election to Donald Trump. So, you're exactly right. We've been told a variety of stories. We've gotten, and who knows if we've gotten to the end of the story. We thought we got to the end of the story with the emails.
I now know we haven't, because there's news breaking at this moment, Chris.
Okay.
Fox News can now confirm more. Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, the lawyer from Russia, the interpreter, this new guy we found out about today, and a mystery person. John Roberts confirms there was an eighth person in that meeting. We don't know. There may have been more, but there was an eighth. Jared Kushner filled out his form, I think it's an F-86, saying who he'd met with and what he'd done. Very important stuff. You can go to prison for messing it up, intentionally. He went back and added 100 names and places. None of these people made it. They're still not clean. We're still not clean on this, Chris. If there's nothing there, and that's what they tell us there's nothing to this and nothing came of it. There's a nothing burger. It wasn't even memorable. Didn't write it down. Didn't tell you about it because it wasn't anything, so I didn't even remember it, with a Russian interpreter in the room at Trump Tower. If all of that, why all these lies? Why is it lie after lie after lie? If you clean, come on, clean. My grandmother used to say, when first we practice what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. The deception, Chris, is mind-boggling. And there are still people out there who believe we're making it up. And one day they're going to realize we're not and look around and go, where are we? And why are we getting told all these lies?
I don't know what to say. I think that there's a lot of truth to everything that you've said. And as John Roberts pointed out, I can.
John Roberts, Chris Wallace, Shepard Smith. Did I miss something, Jack? Did I miss something? Is the Russian hoax all of a sudden true now? Oh, did I miss? I missed an episode, man, or something.
Shep. But,
I mean, they're out to lunch. He's out. Is it because he's gay?
You notice how they fail to tie in that Veselnitskaya was tied with Fusion GPS guy, met with him the night before and the day after. Fusion GPS part of the Christopher Steele, the dossier, the Trump dossier with Christopher Steele, which was paid for originally by the Jeb Bush campaign. You can't leave that out. And then
John McCain
when Jeb Bush
involved.
was gone, it was taken over by the Hillary Clinton campaign.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and you have Devin Nunes is now suing.
Shep. Come on, Shep.
I'm not done, man.
Some things in Trumplandia are inexplicable. This week's edition, the president's ongoing claim that Alabama was at risk from Hurricane Dorian. It wasn't. Maybe he got some bad info from somebody. Maybe he made a mistake. Maybe he was confused. We don't know. But he was wrong. And since, for days and days, he's been insisting with fake visual aids in hand that he was right. It all began on Sunday morning. President Trump tweeted just before 11 o'clock in the morning, in addition to Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama will most likely be hit much harder than anticipated. That was not accurate. Yet he said it again later that day at the FEMA briefing from the White House.
And it may get a little piece of a great place. It's called Alabama, and Alabama could even be in for at least some very strong winds and something more than that.
Well, that was wrong. It gave birth to a lot of very funny memes, but the subject of the goof was too serious, so the National Weather Service swiftly corrected him, issuing a statement from the office in Birmingham. Alabama will not see any impacts from Dorian. We repeat, no impacts from Hurricane Dorian will be felt across Alabama. That could have been it. The end of it. Everybody makes mistakes. Instead, the next day, the president blamed the media for his own inaccurate warning and then started to rewrite history on the matter. Yesterday, it continued, and he added doctored graphics to the narrative. The president on television took a National Hurricane Center forecast that somebody had doctored with a Sharpie or something. The forecast showed East Coast Dorian. The Sharpie's magical addition added the coast of Alabama on the Gulf Coast, completely Dorian free. Why would the president of the United States do this? He decries fake news that isn't and disseminates fake news that is. Think China pays the tariffs. The wall is going up. Historic inauguration crowds. Russia probe is a witch hunt. You need an ID to buy cereal. Noise from windmills causes cancer. It's endless. And now the Sharpie map that hurricanes Alabama. A reporter asked him about it.
That map that you showed today looks like it's almost like a Sharpie.
I don't know.
He doesn't know. But he won't let it go. Yesterday, he brought out another map and a statement that reads, this was the originally projected path of the hurricane in its early stages. As you can see, almost all models predicted it would go through Florida and hitting Georgia and Alabama. I accept the fake news apologies. This is one where he can apologize and just move on. That map was from the day hurricane became a hurricane, 8 days ago, August the 28th. It was 4 days old. At the precise time, he said Alabama would likely be hit harder than anticipated. And by then, it was fake news defined on a very serious subject. Yet he forged on. This morning, another statement. What I said was accurate.
You talk about let it go, let it go, let it go,
Yeah.
Shep. I mean, why don't you let it go, man?
Shep. Come on, Uncle Shep.
Why don't you let it go, man? I mean, God forbid. You know, I'll tell you, when I saw the first tracks of that hurricane myself, even as it was, stumbling over the Bahamas, I still thought Alabama was at risk without even hearing the president, just from being down there.
Think of it before
it's
that.
right next to Florida.
Before that, what was the doom and gloom? Boom, Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah,
Puerto
right.
Rico was gonna smash Puerto Rico. That was headed to Florida. Nowhere in there was Bahamas mentioned. I'm not going to demean the forecasters because there is no one on earth or any computer model that can correctly predict what a hurricane is going to do.
Thank you very much. That's exactly the point. The point is that the president threw out a warning, and these people have spent all kinds of time. What do you think the president added that black mark? You think he got in there on Photoshop or something and he did that? Come on, man.
I don't know. Prior to the show, Hutch, there's a tweet by the president who put out a little clip from the CNN Weather Center on Don Lemon's show. And, oh my goodness. He said there are 6 states at risk, to include Alabama.
No, but did you see the graphic?
Yeah.
The graphic labeled Alabama as Mississippi. The actual graphic on CNN, the map that they showed Florida, Georgia up top, and Mississippi to the west of Florida.
So that was another
unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. These people are just chewing
like we said earlier,
they're chewing on rocks.
They're not putting this information out there for us
or for the
putting
people
it
of
out
Alabama.
there. They're putting it out there for the people,
for each other.
The lowest attention span, right?
Yeah,
give me the headline. I'm good to go for the day.
But for him to continue to cover this and to tell the president to let it go, you just spent, it doesn't show how long the clip is, but you just spent all that time on something that you said is not important.
And he had Chris Wallace back down for once. I mean, there's been a few times where Shep has pushed his liberal skirt into the conversation, and Chris Wallace on Fox has pushed back.
I lost him back at Katrina on his coverage, his ridiculous, childish coverage of Katrina. I'll never forget him standing on the interstate, just damn near crying. Yeah, on the overpass. Just almost crying. Oh, the humanity. It was embarrassing. You're a girl, Shepard. A girl. You were probably on the cheerleading squad at Tulane or wherever the hell you went.
That was probably the last time that the ultimate, Katrina, it crossed across Florida as a Cat 1 was supposed to die in the Gulf, turned in there, churned, and all of a sudden became massive. And the predictions, the folks, the forecasters, all that, with all of the Doppler radar, all that, they couldn't figure it out. It was, 12 plus, or 12, just a little over 12 hours where they said, hey, this bad boy is coming straight in.
Have you ever been to New Orleans? You ever been there?
It's at below sea level.
I'll tell you what, I drove into there one time from the airport, and I looked at the ocean out there, or whatever it was. Maybe it was Lake Pontchartrain.
Was it above you?
Damn right, man. The frickin' city was under it.
Right.
It's like the Indians had to be laughing their ass off when we bought that, or the French, or whoever we bought it off.
That's one of the things when, at post Katrina, when they said we're going to build the thing, I'm like, the Lord is letting you know that, you can't beat God.
And you know where else it's like that? Is Staten Island. If you live in Staten Island, you're nuts, man. Staten Island was uninhabited 100 years ago for a reason. There's places in this. It's like Cape Hatteras. At these places, they should take the flood insurance away. Flood insurance should go away. Federal government subsidized flood insurance should go away. You know why? Because regular insurance companies will not insure that. Because it's just the way it is.
You look right now with the way the forecast was, right? When it first started, they had all of Florida, and they were warning Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, according to CNN. Originally when this was coming through, when they said it was going to hit Puerto Rico and all that. And the reason why, in my opinion, is what happened in New Orleans with Katrina.
Yeah.
Because they were, to me, it's much better to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. It doesn't matter where you at in the path of one of these storms, because you don't know which direction it's going to go. You don't know how strong it's going to get. You don't know if it's going to sit in your backyard for 24 hours as a Cat 5 like Bahamas just dealt with.
Right. Let me deal with this out of the chat room. Mississippi Jim, if you're listening to the show, you're apparently not in the chat room, but man, they're calling for you to call into the show, man. So please do, if you're listening, 412-206-6200. Ladies and gentlemen, your weekly jihad report. 42 jihad attacks, 187 killed, 151 injured. They're getting much more efficient. 3 suicide blasts, all occurring in 13 countries. The religion of peace atrocity of the week. An Iranian woman is sentenced to 24 years in prison for rejecting the hijab. Other recent misunderstandings of Islam. On the 5th in Afghanistan, a Shaheed suicide bomber slaughters 12 outside a busy diplomatic area. On the 3rd in Mali, women and children are among 14 bus passengers sent to Allah by jihadi bombers. On the 2nd in Afghanistan, my birthday, damn it, a massive suicide blast targeting foreigners leaves at least 16 dead. On the 31st in France, an asylum seeker goes on a stabbing spree at a bus stop, killing 1 and injuring 9 others because they do not read the Quran. On the 31st in Nigeria, 4 farmers working their crops are beheaded by religion of peace proponents. In the same country, the day before, on the 30th, Islamists cut the throats of 4 villagers. Islamic terrorists have carried out more than 35,587 deadly terror attacks since 9/11. The religion of peace, ladies and gentlemen, documented at thereligionofpeace.com, one body at a time.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
And we'll say goodnight to Mrs. Ken C. Thank you. That was a little funny, man. She had hijacked Ken's keyboard, man, and she was saying things, and I was like, whoa, wait, man, that doesn't sound right. I thought that was Ken's favorite song, and then he told me that she was in charge of the keyboard. So thanks for listening along this long. We love it when whole families listen to the show, Jack.
Oh, yeah. That's King George. That's right up the road, you know.
I know.
She was like grilling me, like, you from the northern neck?
Oh, yeah. Let's
are you
some
one
meat.
of the old peeps, or are you just a new invader? You know,
let's talk about grilling some meat, man. Let's talk about, do we want to go to a Swedish barbecue? I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in Sweden.
Hey.
I mean, these people are losing their minds, man.
And you look at that. This is part of the European Union. You're talking about Sweden, right? Sweden,
where the main attack weapon is a grenade. I mean, this is an unstable place to be. Just ask the president. They made fun of him for saying it, but he was right.
Or the immigration, right? They're being overwhelmed there. They're one of the nations that you talk about. They ignore that their women and children are being raped, right?
By Muslim African immigrants, man. No doubt.
Right. But here we go. A Swedish professor this week suggested that we should be open to the idea of eating human flesh in order to combat climate change.
So we're going to kill we're going to kill babies, and now we're going to eat them too. I guess that's like veal.
Eat babies, and I guess
old people.
That maybe people that just have passed, or people that, according to the folks that control the medicine, the social medicine, you're beyond saving. You're going to be the buffet at someone's bar mitzvah next week.
I'll tell you what. Sooner or later, a statue is going to come down. I mean, I'm speaking of maybe not a statue, but I'm speaking of Medusa. You remember the story of Medusa?
Right.
Somebody's going to come down, and if you look at her, you're going to turn to stone. Some Sodom and Gomorrah, salt of the earth kind of stuff, man. I mean,
it is.
They're talking about growing the protein matter of humans or something. When you look into this article, it's crazy.
Man-made meat.
Yeah.
But I mean, while the Democrats are here back at home wanting to ban plastic straws, we just heard about that. I just hid some of mine on the air. Hamburgers, cars, incandescent light bulbs, and factory farming, because we only have 11 years left.
That's short,
maybe.
That's short.
You know? But Magnus Soderlund, the Swedish professor and behavioral scientist, took Bernie Sanders' fantasy of mass global genocide to another level: cannibalism.
I mean,
eat
listen
human
to that
flesh
title.
to save the world.
Listen to that title, Jack. Behavioral scientist. She is a scientist that is dipping into areas trying to get you to behave crazy. I mean, think about that, man. This is a whole, what do they call it? Her field of study, whatever. It's all lined up to get you to do something you don't want to do.
It's liberal gone wild. I mean, you're talking about
crazy.
a pay. This is called the Gastro Summit. The Gastro Summit in Stockholm, Sweden, on September 3rd and 4th. The professor, a PowerPoint presentation. We must awaken the idea of eating human flesh in the future as a way, I don't
all I can say,
comment.
all I can think is that these people in New York and Washington, D.C., and San Francisco and Portland and all these other urban shitholes don't really know who farmers are. Ladies and gentlemen, farmers around the world, and the hell with the rest of the world, farmers in the United States of America are so well armed you wouldn't believe it. You would not believe the weaponry that is possessed by Americans that live in rural America. You just wouldn't understand it. You wouldn't believe it. And I'm talking vehicles, automatic. You think... All right, I'm not even going there. I'm just going to tell you that they're well armed.
Oh,
and they're not having it, man. If you ever, and this goes to all you lefty AOC supporting idiots, if you ever wake these people up, you're going to get punished. You're going to get eradicated.
But the listeners know this. We've talked about what's going on in the European Union.
The listeners are this.
Yeah, we've already talked about what's happening in the European Union, and they've gone so far as to have a summit where some professor from a university has or might not have the cojones to say these things in public. Say, we might just need to be able to try eating human flesh just to save the world, to lower the global...
That deserves a hollow point in the forehead, man. I mean, just saying that. Just saying it.
And
just,
if you take it...
I mean, the sanctity of life. You take that away, and this is what's been happening since the 60s. Since Roe versus Wade, these leftists have been trying to take away. Why do you think that they just allow what happens in Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Portland, everywhere else? Why do you think they allow the blacks to kill each other without anybody intervening? Why do you think that is? It's because they are erasing the sanctity of life. Between that and the abortion industry, Planned Parenthood, where are all the Planned Parenthood execution chambers? They're in leftist cities. I mean, there's a couple in other areas, but most of them are in the ghettos. And the mission is to kill black babies. And they have to keep that secret. And that's why they don't do anything when blacks are shooting each other in gangland. Because it's all toward their end. And what are they doing additionally? They're replacing them with illegal peasants from third world countries across the world. That's how evil they are, Jack.
Yeah, and right now, just like they said, we're just going to introduce the idea of this. And even asked the presenter of this forum says, "Well, what about you? Are you willing to eat human flesh?" And she's, "Well, I'm willing to try it." Just the idea of that. Sink the idea into somebody's head, and you look at this, and the first thing that came to my mind, being the conspiracy theorist, was Soylent Green.
Yeah, then they're talking about that in the chat room. The scoops, it's the scoops. But the thing I think about is I have, I can eat a lot, but there's some things I'm not going to eat. Like, for instance, a lot of people in the country like squirrels. They like to hunt and eat squirrels. Well, to me, a squirrel's a rat. When you take the skin off him, other than that tail, that's a rat. You say what you want, but you take the skin off his ass and he ain't cute anymore. I can barely eat a rabbit. But to eat a human, this is ridiculous, man. This is something that is, we are going so far against God here. And that's the only way that you can push the climate change thing. When you teach these kids for the last 30 years that the earth is going to go away, but you have already taken God out of the equation. You know what I did 2 nights ago, Jack? You know what I did? I was thinking about this same subject of how did my son-in-law get to the point, my stepson, get to the point where he's a half a genius, but he really believes that we are destroying the planet. And I put the blame right at my wife and my feet, that we never really took him to church or anything. And I didn't do this. Well, I did do it with my kids. I sent them to Catholic school. But he has nothing else to fall back on. In my existence, I fall back on the creation and the magnificent, just super way above human magic that it took to make our planet. If you look at all of the parameters of things that could kill us at any time out in this big universe, and we are safe here on Earth, that's some God stuff right there, Jack, to me. That's just, we're swirling around in this atmosphere that would kill us, but we have what we have because of God.
And there's certain times where God says, boom.
Right. Absolutely.
You're pissing me off.
So I decided that, all right, I failed. Sometimes we fail in life. And the difference between leftists and people that are more grounded is that I can regroup and realize that I screwed up. And what I did was I wanted to look something up in the Bible. And sometimes you really screw up, Jack. And I screwed up and I realized I don't have a Bible. And I realized I never give my kids a Bible. And I realized my grandfather gave me a Bible, but my house burned down and I lost it. So I bought 4 Bibles last night. I bought one each for both my grandkids, one for my stepson and one for myself. Because, man, you got to have something to go back to when these people start speaking all this humanistic stuff that there's no divine power. And there is divine power.
It is there. And as far, from my personal opinion, from reading the Bible, is I don't like when the folks, even folks within the cloth, take one verse and then create their own sermon out of that verse.
No,
which
I agree.
Takes the whole. The Bible's pure, and to me, it's fine. You read it, you understand each verse or each chapter and verse under context. We have a problem with taking people's quotes out of context in the media right now. They'll take one sentence and then boom, destroy somebody. And it's like, wait a minute. If you listen to everything this person said, it's not what somebody told you they just said. The same thing with the Bible. Each chapter in the Bible is lesson to me.
That's what it's meant to be. That's what it's supposed to be.
You can't take one verse and then just channel it the way you want is basically what I'm saying. But I'm going off topic. Sorry.
I'm just saying, you have to have something to base your beliefs in. And if you take that away, what these people are doing now, they have and they did it, believe me, this was deliberate. And it started in 1970. It started with Earth Day at the UN. And it has become a cult. And it's climate change. And it's Agenda 2030 and Agenda 21. And they have replaced God with dirt. We are now worshiping dirt. We're dirt worshipers, just like the Apaches. I mean, this is what we've become. We have become dirt worshipers. And that's sickening. And I'm going to try to rearrange it.
You have a lot of folks that discount the Word of God and think they know better, right?
Yeah, and it's linked.
And
a lot of it,
man above God. It's already been written. It's been tried before. It doesn't work out well for the man aspect. Think they're better than God.
Ask the Indians. You know what I mean? But let me just go back to what I started talking about earlier in the liberals and their libido. Another consequence is the conflict that arises between the parents themselves and the damage this conflict does both to the parents and their children. What is lost is a secure sense of the potential for goodness. It is impossible to live hopefully in a world which belief in the goodness of a life has been replaced by endless casual encounters that demean love. Unfortunately, some of our nation's leaders have exhibited little sense of loyalty within their own families. When it was revealed recently that 22-year-old Seyorse Kennedy Hill, Robert F. Kennedy's granddaughter, had taken her own life, the media portrayed it as the latest in a string of Kennedy family tragedies, as if tragedy had arrived mysteriously and without cause or explanation. Terrible it certainly was, but the word tragedy often seems misused in connection with the Kennedys. The series of deaths and accidents that have befallen the Kennedys can be viewed, at least in many cases, as the result of heedlessness and bravado. The decision to ride in an open convertible, to appear unguarded at an Ambassador Hotel ballroom. And for those of you that aren't up to history, the first was JFK in Dallas. The second was RFK at the Ambassador Ballroom. To fly at night without proper night certification, that was John F. Kennedy Jr., conveniently wrecked his plane as Hillary Clinton was going to run for the seat that he would have won. And to leave the scene of an accident and presumably to drive in an unsafe manner at Chappaquiddick. Whether it is sexual adventures or a lack of caution in other respects, liberals exhibit a lack of restraint that often ends badly. Many conservatives, especially when they are young, also fail to exercise caution, but they learn from their mistakes. What marks liberals as fools is their inability to learn. And I agree with that 100%. I do. And there's more to that. You can go to the American Thinker and find it. It's a long article that we just don't have time for tonight.
If you like reading the American Thinker, always there's some plenty of in-depth. You can sit down and have breakfast, donut, or a bagel or whatever, and enjoy the read because it's a nice read.
I think so too, man. I really do. Between that and the Conservative Treehouse, if you're ready to read, not only that either. If you go to Front Page Mag, David Horowitz's aggregation or blog or whatever you want to call it, and you read some of Daniel Greenfield's stuff, we're going to get him back on the show too. He's man, that guy's a super brain, man. He writes articles that are like 100 pages long, man. You can't even put him on the show. But let's move. It's Friday night, Jack, and it's time to get into winners and losers of the week. So I'll start with you, winners and losers.
Mine was easy. The winner is Trump economy. Numbers came out again this week. The jobs are up. Not as much as what was projected, but I mean, think about this first 2.5 years. I mean, I'm looking at Gateway Pundit article, which comparing the Trump economy to the Obama economy during the same 2.5 plus year period. It said overall, President Trump has gained nearly 9 million more jobs than Obama in their respective first 2.5 years in office. I think that's a pretty stark difference, don't you?
I do. And you know what else I remember is every single month during the 8 years of the Obama administration, do you remember that the financial economy announcements were made, and then a week later, unexpectedly, they're lower than that. You remember every single month, every month. Now they're doing it the same way, but they're upgrading it every month.
Upgrading it or downgrading it, but it's been truthful. It's not a consistent overinflation just to make a news cycle because nobody's going to check back, you know?
Continue.
Yes. So that's my winner. And I hopefully you are one of the ones that is excelling in this Trump economy. The loser is CNN's The Climate Change Fiasco, because almost all 7.5 hours, I believe it was, right? It had low ratings.
They lost like 25% of their audience.
Yeah,
and MSNBC too. They're killing an industry, Jack.
Get this.
And we're going to be
the 2020 candidates, right? The folks that were on this climate change deal. Let me find this here. They were talking about they hate big business, right? They hate air travel.
They hate everything.
And they're not very fond of meat. And all of these above are to blame for the climate crisis that we're going to talk about
catastrophe
for 7.5 hours.
Catastrophe.
Well, the reason why CNN is a loser is because the summit was partially sponsored by.
Oh yeah.
Sponsored by Invesco, which is a QQQ high dollar fund for NASDAQ, right? You got to have somebody to invest in Invesco.
What about the stakes? What about the stakes?
The Priceline, I'm going to get to that. Priceline, they are, doing advertisement for air travel and all that, buying, plane tickets when, Dems are trying to ban air travel. And the last but not least, when Booty Juice and the rest of them are talking about we need to stop eating hamburgers.
Not Booty Juice. Not Booty Juice. You started it, man. Oh, Lord.
Golden Corral is one of the sponsors of their endless sirloin buffet. So who's the hypocrite here?
It's unreal, man. It is. Booty Juice, man. That's your name. That's.
No, I got that from Ken. That's Ken from King George's.
Okay, Ken. It's Booty Juice. All right, that's his name from now on. I don't know if that's going to work with Sal, but we'll figure it out. My losers this week are CNN too. I had to put that on there, and Shepard Smith. That girl, I had enough of her, man. I really have, man. She just. Ever since her coming out on the gay marriage thing and saying, you're on the wrong side of history if you don't support this, I'm thinking, get a break, man. Get out of here. My winners are David Chappelle. David Chappelle, probably the best comedian of our era because he has a set of balls and comes out and says the truth. And comedy is nothing if it's not rooted in truth. And David Chappelle has it spot on Netflix.
I've heard, Netflix. If you have it, you need to search, seek, and destroy and watch that video as soon as you can, because how long until they pull it,
Right, and I don't have Netflix. I got rid of them. But the other winner for this week is Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg came out there and became an adult this week and said, stop it with the damn lists. And she's 100% right, and the conservative media movement got behind her on that, which is not going to help her. But she was dead on, spot on right. Ladies and gentlemen, all right. I'm not going to stick around. Ken C's better half. Stick around. You're going to hear it. I told you were. But it's not going to work on my fade out.
Oh, he's like asking about Whoopi. Whoopi was basically saying that what Deborah Messing and her co-star from some show, is wrong to create a blacklist in Hollywood, right?
Absolutely, that's right, and it is wrong. Jack, I know people can't get a hold of you, man. You're like incognito, but maybe not.
I'm out there.
Tell us where you're at, and final comments.
I'm right here. Every time that Cold War Radio is on the air in the VFW chat room. If you are tuned in and you haven't logged in to the chat room, you're missing a lot. The most intelligent folks in the United States and elsewhere are here discussing the topics we are talking about while we are live.
That's right. And ladies and gentlemen, please become a Cold War Radio patron because Jack just got his first share of the donations. That's what I do, ladies and gentlemen. I whack them up. Every one of my co-hosts gets 10%. So if you want to see Jack and Ward and Sal, and Stacy doesn't come on regular enough, but she'll start, and Mona get more than $44, you got to become a Cold War Radio patron. They get a straight up percentage.
Does that mean I'm a professional now?
You are. Man. Well, no, not really, because I don't consider it paying you. I just consider it sharing our audience's love.
Yes, thank you to all the audience and all the patrons.
And please, like I said, become a patron. Now, you're listening to rsbnmusic.bandcamp.com and Jacob Seals, The American Dreamer, but for Mrs. Ken Crater, no. Yes, Ken C. In 2
Ken's
minutes,
boss.
In 2 minutes and 15 seconds, you're going to hear what you want to hear. Believe me, I would not consider alienating your listenership by any means, because my wife has never listened to the show. She just won't do it, man. We're not having it. Dancing with the Stars or some other stuff's on upstairs. And, hey, that's just my little piece of hell, but it's really a piece of heaven. We get along so well. Let me tell you. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out. Hope you had a great week. Hope you have a great weekend coming up. I'm getting ready to head back up to Camp Vienna in the morning. So Sunday's WHBJ will be from Camp Vienna. And you really have to come out for that. It's from 7 until midnight. And right around 9 o'clock, we have the party line, which I put all the callers on at the same time. It's fun. So stop by and check that out. Please share the show. That's the most important thing. We got to get this thing Spotify. Thank God for you guys, man. Spotify. Wow. If you're listening on Spotify, send me an email, scrtv@live.com. scrtv@live.com. If you want to call the show and you're listening on Spotify or any other podcast platform, 412-567-1460. Keep it under 2 minutes. I think that's the parameters of that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, stick around for a little bit of musical interlude. Not much, but just a little bit. Thanks for letting us into your life for a couple hours. I'm very humbled by that. And I'm so glad that you enjoy the program. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. in Pittsburgh. God bless. For Mrs. Tennessee.
Machine with a need to bleed you when the light goes green. Best believe I'm in the zone to be. From a yin to my yang to Z. Put a grin on my chin when you come to me. Cause I'll win, I'm a one of a kind. And I'll bring death to the place you're about to be. Another river of blood running under my feet. Forged in the fire lit long ago. Stand next to me, you'll never stand alone. I'm last to leave, but the first to go. Lord, make me dead before you make me old. I feed on the fear of the devil inside of the enemy faces in my sight. Aim with a hand, shoot with a mind, kill with a heart like Arctic ice. I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a warrior, this is my song. I am a warrior and this is my song. I'm basking the glow of the rising war. Lay waste to the ground of an enemy shore. Wade through the blood spilled on the floor. And if another one stands, I'll kill some more. Bullet in the breach and a fire in me. Like a cigarette thrown to gasoline. If death don't bring you fear, I swear you'll fear these marching feet. Come to the nightmare, come to me. Deep down in the dark where the devil be. In the mall with the jaws and the razor teeth. Where the brimstone burns and the angel weeps. All that the gods have across your path. And my silhouette hangs like a body bag. Hope is a moment now long past. The shadow of death is the one I cast. I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a warrior and this is my song. My eyes are steel and my gaze is long. I am a warrior and this is my song.
We're not just going to shoot the bastard. We're going to cut out their living guts and use them to grease the treads of our tanks. We're going to murder those lousy bastards by the bushel.
Now I live lean and I mean to inflict the grief. And the least of me is still out of your reach. The killing machine's gonna do the deed until the river runs dry and my last breath leaves. Chin in the air with a head held high. I'll stand in the path of the enemy line. Feel no fear, know my pride. For God and country I'll enjoy life.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I appreciate you coming out. It's always good that you do that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a clip here because I got one more clip that I feel like playing. If I can find it. I'm not so sure I can, but I might be able to. I'm actually looking. Oh, man, there it is. No, that's the one that I had earlier. So let me go back. I know where it is. Let's go back here and go to, boom, one more and that. And I think I'm going to find it right here. I believe I am. And there it is. I want you to listen to one more clip. And there's a little bit of profanity in this. But sometimes you have to deal with the profanity. I want you to listen to the real deal. This is a clip from the movie Gotti, and this is after he's been convicted and sentenced to 1 million years.
Makes you think. Makes you think about the people in your life. And I think of Neil. And if he was sitting there right now, what he'd say to me? He'd say, John, what's it about? What's life about? If you don't true it is a man's man. You see, suck it up. Take the fall, do the time. That's made you who you are. That makes you what you are. We've been around this thing of ours, this Cosa Nostra, 120 years. I mean, what's it about? It's about the rules, parameters. When you take the beating for the friend, you don't run, you don't lay down, you don't betray who you are, what you are.
Self-esteem.
Self-esteem is basic. You pick it up in the street. That goes with the street. You got to remember Angie here. I love this guy. I loved him. And he was stupid. He never listened to me. He always wanted the goddamn dope money. He never rolled. Do you know that? He never rolled. My brother Gene, Joey, the Mig, they don't roll. They're doing 1,000 years now. They don't roll. They don't rat white. That's the rule. You don't break, you don't rat. Basic rules. Gives you a little power, right? Not the kind of power these feds have. God forbid, right? God forbid we pull their chain in public, right? Fucking dress better than them, they take it personal, like it's a fucking vendetta.
Feds, yeah.
Right? They're supposed to act better than the rest of us. Just want me to be something I wasn't even born to be.
Humble.
Humble.
They want you to be humble.
Yeah, so you humble me. What you got now? You got a war. You got a global war. You got the Chinks, you got the Dominicans, the Asians, the Russians, the Colombians, the Jamaicans. What they doing? They desecrate the nation. You got your veritable fucking snowstorms of cocaine and smack, whatever the hell else they shove in their veins. You got a worldwide crime syndicate now. There's no rules. There's no parameters. There's no feelings. There's no feelings for this country.
Anarchy.
You got anarchy. So? 5, 10 years from now, they're gonna wish it was American Cosa Nostra. 5, 10. They're gonna miss John Gotti.
your team lose. Now hold on a second. And by the way...
We interrupt this program for Obama to say something.
My fellow Americans, I'd like to announce that I'm running for President of America as a black man this time. I did some time in jail. I did some crime with Michelle. We stole some fried watermelon. Yippee-yippee-ki-yay. I'm known to smack up a bitch. I got Kool-Aid in the fridge. I never met my kids. Their real dad is Kanye. Guns, yeah, I sold them. Hoes, tricks, yeah, I told them. Blood splits, yeah, I rolled them. Grinding out to homegrown baby. Hey, I just met you, so please don't tase me. My name's Obama. Was born in Haiti. I still get food stamps. I'm just lazy. I'm still on welfare. So fuck you, baby. They might arrest you, but you could blame me. They'll pull me over, incarcerate me. If I get unemployed, shit don't faze me. My name's Obama. I'll roll with Jeezy. Jeezer? Are you young Jeezer? How'd you get in the White House? I smoke a lot of Newports. I sit a lot on the porch. I stole 2012 Porsche from my neighbor's driveway. I did a lot of drug deals. I killed Osama for trills. I blamed it on Navy SEALs and fucked his bitch sideways. Bro, yeah, I'm holding rocks, weed, meth, heroin. White House garden showing. What you think I'm throwing? Daisies? Hey, I just met you. Yo, it's okay, see. My name's Obama. I'm half Kuwaiti. It's hard to look white. Robin Macy's. Give me the FUBU. Don't try to play me. Hey, I just met you. No, please don't mace me. My name's Obama. I dance like Swayze. If you live in Detroit, you gotta thank me. My name's Obama. I'm Pakistani. Before I came in the White House, I used to smoke crack. I used to soul crack. I used to roll so black. I was born in Dubai. I'd like to go back. Where's all my hoes at? Take off your clothes and don't talk back. Now, the American people have a clear choice. Would you like to get smacked with a pimp cane or with the back of my hand? It's hard to look white. I'm smacking ladies, so it's no wonder y'all crackers hate me. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. I steal your Hummer and throwed your baby. Sandusky touched the boy, or so they say. See, my name's Obama. Chicken is tasty. Before I came in the White House, I used to smoke crack. I used to soul crack. I used to roll so black. All you haters don't like me. Lick my ball sack. Y'all haters fall back. So fuck you, pay me. I mean, do we really need another black guy on unemployment right now? I'm sorry, I get that from my mother. She's a typical white person.
Don Bassini, I want to thank you for helping me organize this meeting here today. And also the other heads of the 5 families, New York, New Jersey. Carmine Cuneo from the Bronx and Brooklyn. Philip Tatali from Staten Island. We have with us Victor Strachey and all the other associates who came as far as from California, Kansas City, and all the other territories of the country. Thank you. How do things ever get so far? I don't know. We're so unfortunate, so unnecessary. Dahlia lost a son. I lost a son. We're quits. And if Natalia agrees, then I'm willing to let things go on the way they were before.
We are all grateful to Don Corleone for calling this meeting. We all know him as a man of his word. A modest man, he'll always listen to reason.
Yes, Don Barzini. He's too modest. He had all the judges and politicians in his pocket. He refused to share them.
When did I ever refuse an accommodation? All of you know me here. When did I ever refuse? Except one time. And why?
As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me.
I roamed and rambled. I followed my footsteps from the sparkling sands of your diamond desert. And all around me, a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me.
When the sun comes shining, then I was strolling. The wheat fields waving, the dust clouds rolling. A voice was chanting as the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me.